I had eyeballs all over the place. Nothing was broken. Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts, and I hope you're doing okay. Now, recently I acquired the dragon on an egg mould from Let's Resin. And I want to do something a little different, but in order to do that, I need to make something first. So, in this video, I am going to attempt to do it myself and hopefully show you how to make rather large eyeballs. So I'm going to be using seamless sphere moulds. Now these are ones I bought from Amazon. Let's Resin do have a set in the USA but not in the UK. I'm going to use some mould release cream. Now this mould release cream actually came from Let's Resin's own squishy set, and I figured it would work perfectly for what I have in mind. I've turned the sphere moulds inside out, and I'm spreading the mould release cream just on the lower part of the inside of the sphere moulds. Now I'm going to grab some silicone rubber. This is Let's Resin silicone rubber. I've mixed up a small quantity and I'm putting it in the degassing machine because I don't want any bubbles in these casts. It doesn't take long. It takes roughly 3 minutes to degas this type of silicone. And as you get about 15 to 20 minutes working time with this silicone, the degassing isn't a problem. Once it's all degassed, I have a completely bubble-free silicone mix. Now I'm just pouring the silicone in the bases of these sphere moulds, just where I've put the release cream to get a small semicircle in the bottom of these moulds, the same size as the moulds. Now I did wait the following day, but it only takes about 4 hours to cure this silicone. But I can take these inlays out of the bottom of the spheres without any problems whatsoever. And I can just clean up this mould with a little isopropyl alcohol and a baby wipe, and the mould is as good as new. No damage done to it whatsoever. So now I have some little semicircular silicone inlays in all the sizes of these moulds. Now there are plenty of ways to make silicone inlays for semicircles and bumps. I don't know what you want to call them. They're not half circles, they're little bumps. And these half circle plastic bauble items that you can fill yourself from Amazon are perfect. They come in a lot of different sizes. And this inlay came out of this size. It's a nice deep shiny inlay. Now I've got my silicone inlays, I'm going to decorate the inside of these sphere moulds. I figured I could try using acrylic pens. Now acrylic paint pens don't really work very well on silicone moulds. What they do is kind of pull away from the silicone and leave a little bubble of colour where they were and kind of dry where they are. Now that does give me an idea to kind of make veins on the outside of the mould. You could do all kinds of colours and patterns on the outside of an eyeball. And I did think to myself, how am I going to set this down to let it dry? And I figured I could just perch it on top of a bottle. So I grabbed a bottle and just put it upside down on the bottle so that it could dry. When it's dry, you can touch it and the resin will pick this up. But I also wanted to give it a little bit more, so I decided to get some black Let's Resin mica powder and some chrome red as well. And I'm just using a makeup dabber brush type thing. What is that? It's a makeup spongy brush thing. Sorry, got the giggles there. I think it's a blending brush. It's not a brush, it's a foam pad. It's like a sponge on the end of a stick. I still can't get what it's called. I'll have to Google it. I'm using that to just randomly put dark patches on the base of the eyeball. I'm then using the red chrome to go over the top of the black and hopefully give me some kind of red-black effect on the outside of the eyeball. Now this was all experimental. The whole of this video is experimental. I'm really just having fun with this. I am leaving part of it clear so that it can pick up the white of the resin that I'm going to pour in it. It's going to be random, and random is fine with what I'm looking for. So I actually did 3 different eyeballs. This entire video is 3 different eyeballs, trying different things and trying to get what I want at the end. I'm going to be using white polyurethane resin. This is Let's Resin's white polyurethane. And I have no idea at this point how much I need to make and how I'm going to get the silicone inlays that I've made in the top of this piece, but we'll get to that. I just wanted to show you here mixing polyurethane. It's really cloudy to start with. In fact, it looks really milky, but as you mix it and you only get 30 seconds, it goes clear. And when there's no streaks through it, then you know it's mixed. So I've had a couple of questions lately about polyurethane, and the reason we use polyurethane resin is because we are doing an opaque, completely opaque pour, and it is really quick. When I pour it out into the mould, I find out there's not enough. So I make another small amount. By the time I've mixed it, the first lot has cured. Not completely, but it's gone hard and white. That's how quick it cures. And then I pop in the large silicone inlay that I've just made. Now, unfortunately, I pushed it down. That was a big mistake. I wanted it to float, and silicone does float on resin, even polyurethane resin. But if you push it down, you've done it. It's where it's going to be. It's not going to come back up and float. So I decided with the next one to use a smaller inlay and to thread it with cotton so that I could actually control where it sits when I put it in the mould on top of the resin. And I do think this was a bit of a light bulb moment for me. Now you might be thinking, why don't you put it in the bottom of the mould and pour the resin on top? Well, there's going to be a huge air pocket underneath if you did that, and that does not go well. This time I've made enough because I know now how much I needed to pour, and I'm popping in the inlay, not really sure which size to use either, and hopefully it'll stay where it is because I've positioned it with the cotton. The cotton was amazing. It worked. I could actually control where it was when I put it in. But it still didn't work particularly well because I let go of it and let it cure after I let go, and then it moved. So the last attempt, this one worked, okay? A small inlay, cotton threaded through the middle, and then I held it. Now, you probably think, oh my goodness, she's going to be sitting there for ages holding a piece of string with that inlay. I've put the time on the screen. You can see that literally it takes minutes because this polyurethane pour is quite a large mass. And the thicker it is, the quicker it's going to cure. It didn't take long at all. And I left this in deliberately to show you how long it took. This is real time. It is actually how long I was sitting there. And at one point I thought, oh, you know what? Is it cured enough for me to let go of this string? I'm getting a bit bored. I did not have to wait long at all. A couple of minutes. I mean, if you can doze off or just shut your eyes for 2 minutes and go into like a little dream world, that's all you need to do. I did think, well, perhaps I could stick that cotton down with a piece of tape, but I don't think it would have held it enough. I've already got that in quite a tight grip. You can see around that outside edge, it's pulling the lip of the mould apart. That's how tight I'm pulling it because I want that silicone inlay in the right place, curing exactly where I want it. Now this inlay was actually made from the plastic baubles, and therefore it's a little bit deeper than actually the ones that came out of the moulds. And if it wasn't for the fact that you have to buy a set of 12 or 10 or something, I would get every size of those baubles to make inlays from. But I've only got one size, so that's the size that's in this particular smaller sphere mould. Here I let go of the cotton because I'm thinking, is it enough for me to let go? And I decided no, just to be patient, just wait. And I really didn't have to wait long. And all of a sudden, this happened right in front of my eyes. It went from clear to white in a whoosh. It was incredible to watch. So I thought I'd show it again in case you missed it. And that's real time. Absolutely amazing. It just went whoosh, cured. Then I knew I could let go. How bizarre is that? I've never actually seen it go whoosh like that before. So about an hour later, I can demold and see if my silicone inlays that I put into these 3 eyeballs worked. The first one was a disaster. I had to take it to the garage and I had to cut off the top to get the silicone inlay out. Now this is the middle one I poured. I used the cotton, but I didn't hold on to it. I just let it go. As you can see, it worked really well. However, it did drift to one side. And as I remove the overspill of the polyurethane, you can see the indentation is not in the center. This little one is the one I held and you saw go whoosh. After all, practice does make perfect. And it's only through trial and error that you can see where things are going wrong and how to fix them. So once I took off the silicone inlay and had to snip the cotton strands because the resin did go over the top, I had a perfect little indentation in the right place and I was well chuffed with that. So that is definitely what I was looking for. That is now the perfect place to put the iris and the pupil. I was happy with that one. So now I have the outside of the eyeball made, I need to make the iris and the pupil of the eyeball. And I decided to try mini put for this. Now, I think air dry clay would probably work a lot better, but I'm not very good with air dry clay and I don't have the patience to wait 3 weeks for it to dry. Mini put, however, dries within 24 hours and I did actually leave them for another couple of days while I was at work anyway. With the mini put, you have 2 separate components. You have equal parts, so I've mixed the 2 together, kneaded them until they were completely mixed, pushed it out to a flat round circle in my hands and put it in the nicely formed indentation shape. Now this is the one that I took to the garage because I had to cut the top off. It's rather large. It takes over the top of the sphere, but it's still going to be used. And all I did with this is to start working with tools to get the impression of an iris and a pupil in the mini put. I use loads of different tools. You can use whatever tools you have handy. And like I said, I do think that air dry clay would do the same, exactly the same, if you're prepared to wait for it to dry. I'm a little bit impatient with that regard. So I started making indentations and marks and lines on this supposed eye. This is all in my imagination and it was a lot of fun to play around with. You can make whatever patterns you want and it will dry how you want. So with all different tools and with lots of different imaginary eyeballs in my head, I was creating what I thought to be something that was full of texture, that was full of lumps and bumps, that wasn't uniform, that wasn't flat. I wanted that texture because I'm going to coat these in colour and I want the colour to pick up the texture. And I'm happy with how they're going. Now I did go over the top, I think. I kept going back in and putting more texture in, but that is just the way I am. I keep going, refining my ideas, putting more and more detail in, and really that's just a personal preference. And this did take me quite a while, but I was having so much fun with it as well. I just want to say a quick hello and welcome to all my new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed already, maybe you would consider doing so. It does not cost a thing. You don't have to be a YouTube member and it will definitely help my channel out. And if you like what you're seeing, then please put the thumbs up. That is the most important thing these days for YouTubers, to have the thumbs up. That helps YouTube know that you're enjoying the content and will help push the video out so that others get a chance to see it. With the other 2, I made this one into a round iris. I put some dots in it as well. And And with the little one, I made quite a large pupil and a smaller surrounding area. I left them all to dry out for a few days and then I painted them black. This is just acrylic paint that I watered down, and I gave them all about 3 coats of black in very thin coats. As I said, this is watered down black acrylic, just box standard black acrylic. Once that was dry, then I got out the metal size glue. Now, I figured that I wanted the irises to be a different colour to the pupils, so I am just coating the outside areas in the metal size glue. Metal size glue stays sticky when it's dry, but it does go completely clear. So once that's all dried, which takes about 20-25 minutes, then I can colour it with colour. And this one I've chosen Aurora colour. This is one of Emma's The Tiny Turner pigments. Absolutely beautiful colour. It kind of looks like it's got its own light source. Very stunning, even for green. With this one, I chose the Galaxy Intense colour from Let's Resin. Another absolutely stunning colour. You know I love purple, and this just goes blue purple in lots of different shades. I just want to say thank you to Let's Resin for sponsoring this video. All the links for Let's Resin will be in the description box below the video. And the little one, I decided to use Supernova, which is a copper-ish colour. I wanted them to stand out. I wanted bright colours around the pupil. Now, I did think the pupils were a little bit dull. So I put some metal size glue in the centre and then added some black glitter from Let's Resin. This is sparkly black glitter. I didn't do it with all 3 eyes, but this one I just thought it needed it. It was a big pupil. It needed that little bit of sparkle, and it definitely sparkles. Now, as I said, this is all experimental, but I was thinking it out as I was going along, and I figured I needed to fill in the rest of this eyeball before I give it a final coat. So I got out the Let's Resin UV resin and I filled in the space of this eyeball. Now, hindsight is a wonderful thing. If I'd done this again, I would not be putting UV resin in this area. I would be putting 2-part epoxy resin and letting it cure for 24 hours. Because trying to cure UV resin over the top of black doesn't work well at all. But that's a combination that I'll show you later. Now it's time for me to put the eyeballs back into the moulds. I'm going to be filling these moulds up with clear resin because I want a sphere at the end. I want the front of the eyeball to be in a sphere shape. This is the hardest bit. I've got to get these eyeballs, come on, back into the moulds. This was the most difficult part, and if I'd have shown you all 3, you would have been sitting here for quite some time. I had eyeballs all over the place. Nothing's broken, nothing's broken. And I eventually just popped it back into the mould. Ah, that's hard work. Now, as you can see, the irises are off to one side because I didn't want air pockets around the irises if I put them in back upside down, if you see what I mean. I needed the irises to be off to one side so I could get the bubbles out. So then it was a case of trying to get resin right the way around the outside of these eyeballs in this mould. This was quite messy, but it was a lot of fun. And popping the air out from where the front of the eyeball is was actually quite easy because I'd put it to one side. It was a little bit like burping Tupperware. Do you remember that? Or is that just me showing my age? When you've got a sphere, it doesn't really matter where in the sphere the front of the eye is because it's all going to be a sphere in the end. When I was happy filling all of them, I did put these into the pressure pot because I wanted to minimise bubbles, but I'm sure it would have worked if I just left them on the side. So the following day, another task to get them back out of the moulds. I did overfill these so that we have got quite a large bump on the top, but I was figuring I didn't want the eyeball to be sticking out of the top of the mould, so I needed to overfill it and get that bump, but I can grind that down later. I am over the moon with how this has come out. That eyeball now looks like it's in a sphere. Do you remember me saying about the UV resin and me filling up the iris area and pupil area with UV resin, and I should have done 2-part epoxy resin? With a black background, UV resin doesn't cure very well, and I do believe this is what's happened to this eye. As it's gone into the pressure pot, the pressure of the pressure pot has created the bubbles underneath the UV resin next to the black pupil. I think that's what's happened. Not 100% sure, but I think that's what happened, because when it went in the pressure pot, there was no bubbles. And this, by far, is my favourite. Yes, it's full of bubbles, but you know what? I really, really love that. The colour is spot on. The shape is spot on. And even though it was one that I thought I was just doing because it was there and it was imperfect, but why not? I really love it. But all three of them came out of the moulds eventually with some help with some isopropyl alcohol and looked like I wanted them to. I do think though a smaller iris on a sphere works better. I think when you're looking at it straight on, you need to see white around the outside edge, not just cut in half sphere. Definitely needs to be smaller, in my opinion. So now I need to grind down the area that was an over pour, and this is where the new Let's Resin 4-in-1 sander comes in very handy. If you haven't seen this machine, I'll link a video in the top right hand corner where I explain all parts of this machine. But it's great for grinding down the areas, and I could make that part back into a sphere. So I went through all the steps, the grinding, the polishing and the buffing, to end up with a sphere shape back on that side. Now I did grind away a little bits of the area of colour, and I had to recolour them. The recolouring isn't as good as the original, but it looks like it's a broken eyeball, and I still love the effect. If anything, I would say if you're going to do this, just pour a white eyeball, do all the bits and then colour it afterwards. Grinding down the edge, I ground away some of the colours on all three of them. Only little areas, but it definitely made a difference. This large one, the one that I thought was broken in the first place, is my absolute favourite. The colour, the shape, and even with the bubbles, I still love this one. Yes, it did grind away some of the colour and the edge, and I had to recolour it in. Maybe I could have done a better job with that, but I'm still happy with how it turned out. I now have 3 eyeballs to choose for my next project. The dragon that sits on the sphere, and I think one of these will work brilliantly in that mould. Which one would you choose? I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I really hope you got something out of it. It was a lot of fun to make these, and I hope you enjoyed watching. Come back and see me next week, because you never know what I'm going to be up to. I never know what I'm going to be up to. Have a great week, happy crafting, and bye for now.